welcome everybody. This is the Wellness Education Series. My name is AB. I am the Wellcats Nutrition Graduate Assistant. Um, in case you aren't very familiar with Wellcats, if you're new to the program, this is the Texas State Employee Wellness Program. It is free, and you're already admitted if you're a benefits eligible member. The key services that we provide here are some group exercise classes. We also have the proactive nutrition cooking classes. We have some stretch breaks that we offer periodically. There are, of course, also the one-on-one nutrition consultations, which you can have with me and in the future with other graduate assistants, and then also these Wildcats educational series, of course, which are offered every month. And then we have a new offering that we call Snack and Learn. If you are familiar with Healthy Snacks and Nutrition Hacks, if you've attended any of those meetings before, this is sort of a next iteration of it that is focused more on being an interactive uh, not necessarily just a presentation, but it's more of an interactive experience where you get to kind of like share a snack and just sort of like we learn together about nutrition. If you have any questions, you can email us at wellcats@texasstate.edu. And of course, you can also check out the Texas State Wellcats website where we have our calendar as well as all the other events that are coming up. Okay. So as far as today's topic for the the Wellness Educational Series is talking all about affordable, healthy meal planning for a busy lifestyle. So how do we get started? How do we tackle meal planning when our schedule is just so packed and time is precious? Okay, so the first thing I'd like to mention is just the importance of maintaining a stable energy balance. So when we have a busy lifestyle, when our schedule gets super packed, it can be very easy to just sort of like ignore eating and put it on the back burner, just sort of like focus on work and all the responsibilities that we have going on for the day. But there is a bit of an issue with that because it can cause an inconsistent energy balance. Um, so it's really important that we maintain consistent energy balance because delaying eating during, particularly like around lunchtime or even breakfast can cause us to overconsume when it is time for our next meal. So having a stable energy balance can help us with maintaining weight balance. So instead of having that kind of like yo-yo effect, which is most pronounced typically like around the holidays time, that's when people most notice it, where weight fluctuates a lot, but it can also fluctuate throughout the weeks as well. Also, it helps with increasing productivity because then you don't get that kind of like sluggish feeling, that sort of like fatigue and slump after having like a big meal. And then it also supports your overall health as well. So if you aren't familiar, this is the hunger scale. You can kind of use that to kind of evaluate how hungry you feel and then when you should eat. So one would be kind of like you're absolutely starving. 10 would be like, oh my God, I'm so full. I feel sick right now. I like to call it the Thanksgiving full. Um, But typically, where we want to be in the hunger scale is between 4 and 7. When you're starting to kind of like slightly feel hungry, I'm like, okay, I should eat a little bit. And whether that be having your meal or maybe having a snack, and then you should stop when you start to feel slightly full or start to kind of like slightly feel uncomfortable. That's when the pause should happen. And of course, with the hunger scale, we can tackle that with our meals, but then we can also tackle that with snacking as well. So snacking can also be a great tool for maintaining energy balance and helping you stay within that kind of like 4 to 7 range. And there are ways to make snacking healthier and easier. So, of course, packing your own snack is always going to be a great go-to option because then you can do portion control, you can control the kind of snacks that you are packing instead of kind of like relying on, well, what's at the vending machine or something like that, or what's at the office that day. And then it can also help you with, meeting some dietary goals. Like, if I need to eat more fruits and vegetables, those can be the snacks that you can focus on as well. So some great examples would be like packing some hummus and veggie sticks, or, just a simple yogurt and honey parfait. Packing some fruit like apple slices with peanut butter or something like that. Or even if you're just completely short on time, you don't even have time to prep any of these. Just having a simple piece of fruit with you can also be a great option. So just packing an apple, banana, orange, grabbing a Tupperware, putting some grapes in there, some blueberries, strawberries, anything really, and that way you kind of like can have a snack with you at all time. And then on the topic of snacking, when you are snacking, it's also important to kind of like be mindful. So instead of just kind of like sitting at your desk, you're continuing to work and then you're having your snack kind of like without giving it much thought. It's better to just kind of be like, okay, this is my time to just kind of like take a break. I'm just going to take like 5, maybe 10 minutes if you can afford that time and just enjoy your snack, take a little walk. That also helps with improving circulation because, of course, sitting at a desk is not the best. It's good to kind of like mix in some short walks every now and then. And that can be kind of like your great opportunity to enjoy your snack and then also just take a little bit of time for yourself, a little TLC time. Okay. Now I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you guys like to pack a snack, or any of y'all packing a snack today? Do you have any favorites? You can throw all that down in the chat. Ooh, I see bananas, I see fruits. Lara bars, I've never heard of those. Some almond peanut butter chip bar. Oh, all sounds so good. Pretzel and cheese, handful of walnuts. Yeah, nuts are a great snack to have. Roasted edamame. Oh my God, you guys are making me feel very hungry right now. I wish I was able to pack a little snack. Not sure what to eat anymore because of all the food recalls. That is making it a little bit trickier. It is. Um, yeah, cauliflower pretzels. I've never heard of those before. So are they just made with cauliflower like flour, or are they just like pieces of cauliflower? It sounds delicious. Yes, Patty, please share your secrets for this. I need to know what those cauliflower pretzels are too. Okay. So moving on from that, hopefully I persuaded you guys to pack a healthy snack in the future. So next up, when we are talking about meal planning, of course, meal planning begins with shopping. And so I wanted to share just a couple of helpful tips when you are headed to the grocery store next time. So three main things that I kind of like advise almost everybody is one, looking at store brands, because a lot of the same foods that you buy are actually manufactured at the same facilities. They're just packaged under either a store brand or a name brand. And there's really hardly a difference between them. I've watched lots of reviews and people doing sort of like breakdowns on the quality between a store brand and a name brand, and it seems like nine times out of 10, a store brand is just as good as a name brand. You're just paying a little extra for the name brand. And so that can be one great way to save on money when you are shopping. And of course, I mean, HEB, HEB might as well be a name brand at this point. I mean, they make everything, and it's all such great quality. Another thing is to look at the price per unit or count or ounces, because of course, different products can be priced a little bit deceptively. You can look at some larger items, and while they do cost more, in the long run, it will be cheaper than if you just buy a larger, sorry, a smaller version of that item, because then the price per ounce that you're paying is going to be cheaper than the price uh, per whole package. And you can typically see it right where they put the price tag off to the side. You'll see like price per count or price per ounce. So focusing on that, looking at where can we save a little bit of money, which product is worth more. And sometimes you'll have like, products where it's like it looks like it might be cheaper, but then again, you're paying a little bit more just because it's packaged a little bit differently. And then the biggest helpful tip is think about it from the store's perspective. If it saves the store money, it will save you money. Because if something is more shelf stable and, HEB, for example, can keep it on their shelves a little bit longer, then they can sell it to you at a cheaper price. And so if you then pick those items, of course, it'll save you money because you're paying a cheaper price for it, and then also it will last it your kitchen longer as well. And so one great example I like to point out is this one because people can feel a little bit iffy about frozen foods, particularly frozen meats. There's kind of like a perception that it is lower quality, but in reality, nutritional quality and even just kind of like from a culinary quality perspective, there is nothing wrong with frozen meats. They are just as good in terms of quality. And so I wanted to play a little bit of a guess the price difference. So here on the left, the purple package, that is a fresh, which is really just to say it is the thawed version of a 85, 15% lean to fat ground turkey. And on the right is the exact same product, but it is frozen. So you just pick it up from the freezer section. Um, so I wanted to see if y'all can guess the price difference. What do you think is the price difference? Do you think it's a difference of a few cents, a dollar, $3, dollar 15, 95 cents, $4, $5, dollar 50 difference, dollar 50. Okay. $2. Maritza, you are the winner. It is a $2 difference. Yes. So you can see that the frozen version is $2 per pound, whereas the thawed version again is $4. And that is kind of like the cheapest option as well. There are other, more expensive packaging that you can spend easily like $5.50 to $6 on for just like 1 pound of ground turkey. And so again, if you see a product, you see, oh, this version is cheaper, always go for it. It's going to be just as good. Alrighty. And then, of course, there are other products that can help you. So I always say, like, look for the flavor enhancers because those are just going to make cooking much easier if you could just like find a way to kind of like add more flavor to it. Because one common thing that I hear from doing consultations and just kind of like talking to people is they'll say, well, yeah, but I just don't really know how to make the food taste better. Like I tried meal prepping, but I'm having a hard time with like making everything, be more flavorful. And so flavor enhancers like this Better Than Bouillon, this is a stock concentrate. And so the same broth that you see on the left in the carton. Um, it's the exact same kind of product on the right. But the difference is that on the right, this is the concentrate version, which means that you can basically like make your own broth at home. And so what the leading brands are doing is they're basically just using that same kind of concentrate, and then diluting it down to solid in cartons as like ready to use chicken broth. But you can just make your own at home. It's as easy as just taking a, 1 teaspoon, dissolving it in a cup of water, and you got a cup of stock right there. And it'll add lots of flavor. You can use it to cook your grains. You can use that paste, throwing it like a teaspoon of it in any kind of like sauce. That way you can kind of like enhance the flavor. And then of course, like if you go to like the Asian foods aisle at HEB, you'll find lots of different pastes that are also going to be very flavorful and will help with enhancing the flavor as well. Anything from like Korean fermented pepper paste, like called gochujang, or any of like the different sauces that you'll find, like oyster sauce or things like that. I mean, there's so much variety, and you can experiment with those, see which one you like, which one you enjoy, and that'll help kind of like making meal prep more enjoyable because then you can experiment with flavors. Next up is looking at things that don't necessarily add any additional cost, but can help with saving time. So, for example, if you have sliced mushrooms versus whole mushrooms, they're the exact same price, exact same weight, and so you're basically paying $0 just to have it be a bit more prepped ahead of time. Now with mushrooms, that doesn't add any extra cost. I know there are some other products like you can have pre-chopped onions, pre-chopped herbs, things like that, even peppers and tomatoes. Those can add a little bit extra cost. And so if budget is your focus, of course, buying whole vegetables and prepping them yourself is going to be the cheaper option. But then if you are able to afford a little bit more than just kind of like buying a pre-prepped vegetable is going to be a great way to kind of like save on time. So that way you can just kind of like, um, you know, toss things together and then make a meal much more easily, much more quickly. And then as far as like the nutritional quality of it, yes, technically, if cut vegetables are exposed to oxygen, then they will start to kind of like oxidize and lose a bit of nutrients. But the amount of nutrients that are lost is so negligible. The quality between those two products is basically identical. So there's really no worry when it comes to those products. Other things I like to also advise is to look at the freezer section. So there's always going to be kind of like a huge variety of fruits and vegetables that you can find at the freezer section. For me, the place where I buy most of my vegetables is actually from the freezer section because, I can buy vegetables, but then I don't really necessarily know when I'll get to use them. And so having them kind of be more shelf stable. It sits in your freezer, ready for you to use whenever you are ready to use them. Is always going to be a more budget-friendly option than to buy fresh vegetables and then have them go bad. I like to highlight these little cubed potatoes just because they're so great. They are already pre-cut, they are frozen, and they are plain. They're not seasoned in any kind of way, so you can just experiment with the seasoning yourself. You can season them however you like, and you can make them into lots of different dishes. You can roast them for a weeknight meal. You can just kind of like saute them really quick to make like breakfast tacos or in an omelet or something like that. And you can even like boil them and mash them to make, quick mashed potatoes on a weeknight. And it's going to be much quicker than having to like buy raw potatoes, cleaning them, chopping them, and then boiling them. And of course, you've got, kind of like bags of single vegetables, like peas are the best example of a frozen vegetable, like frozen peas, you can just throw like half a cup of them in any kind of like dish. and they will basically be cooked by the time that they thaw. They are so versatile. But then you can also get like lots of different mixes of vegetables. You know, you have your kind of like fajita mix, your stir fry mix, all kinds of sorry, all kinds of mixed vegetables that you can then experiment with and add variety to your meals. Um, these bags of steamable potatoes on the right are also a great option. I love these. It helps save a lot of time because all you have to do is just microwave the bag for like 8 minutes and you've got perfectly steamed potatoes. So that's another option that is doesn't necessarily break the bank, but also is very shelf stable. I can have it in my freezer on a weeknight where I just don't have time to cook. Okay, and the last, of course, is going to be to focus on your store-cupboard saviors. So legumes are the best example of that, right? So buying either dry beans or canned beans, chickpeas, lentils, even vegetables as well. Like your canned green beans or corn, things like that are also going to be great. Tomatoes are, of course, another great option for making like quick stews and sauces on a weeknight. So stocking your cupboard, your pantry with all kinds of like stable, already cooked vegetables from cans is also going to be another great option. And you can always look for low sodium options because that's one thing with canned goods is they tend to be a little bit higher in sodium. So always you want to look for a lower sodium alternative. And what's nice about canned beans as well is that they're already cooked. So if you are making a quick salad, something like that on a weeknight, or packing it for lunch, you can always just decant it from the can and then mix it into something. You can rinse them if you'd like to get some of that odor out of them. And you've got something cooked and ready to go in like 5 minutes. Okay,
I
so those are going
really
to be some of my shopping advice. Some more advice is to always kind of like prep ahead. So having kind of like a plan for the meals that you're going to have for that week, just so that way you can reduce the stress, kind of like making a little journal for yourself or on your phone, on your phone, maybe in the notes app, kind of like having, what are going to be my meals for this week. And that way, when you are shopping, you can kind of like pick out ingredients that mix and match well together, so that way you aren't necessarily buying, ingredients for two completely different dishes where you're not going to be able to kind of like use the ingredients for making like similar dishes that way. And then, of course, making a shopping list and not shopping when hungry is the best advice I can give anybody when it comes to grocery shopping. I am guilty of this. I will go to the grocery store hungry, and then I will buy so many other products that I did not plan to buy at all. And so, going in on a bit more of a full stomach is a better idea. And then keeping track of what's in your fridge is also going to be great for meal planning. So labeling your containers, putting dates on things, just so that way you know, like, well, this needs to be cooked first, and then maybe this other product has a little bit more shelf life to it. Making some things in bulk, like sauces, is also really great. Like if you're making a chipotle mayo, just taking some like light mayonnaise with chipotle peppers, blending them together. That can be made in huge bulk, and that way you can kind of like add flavor to any of your dishes really easily, really quickly. And then if you can't freeze things, always freeze them. It helps with extending that shelf life. You get to keep your foods for a little longer. And then that way you can kind of mix and match the things that you have, and you can have more variety in your meals. Especially if you are the type of person where you're like, well, I get bored really easily, and that's something that people do talk about a lot when it comes to meal prepping, is that it can kind of become a bit monotonous. So this is one way to kind of mix things up. Okay. So speaking of meal prep, These are going to be the five styles of meal prep that I will be talking about today. You have batch cooking, cooking once, eating twice, individual portioning, buffet style, and then modular prep. Modular prep is actually my favorite way of meal prepping, and I will be talking about that last. And I will show you guys a couple of examples of how you can utilize that as well. But I'd like to ask you, do you meal prep? Do you have any strategies you'd like to share with us? Oh, I had no idea that stock concentrates can have added sugar. That's interesting to know. Thank you. With the sodium, the concentrates you can always get like lower sodium alternatives. The pre-chopped, it depends on the vegetable. Like if it's a tomato, then yeah, it can spoil a little bit faster. But most hearty vegetables will last about as long, whether they are chopped or not chopped. Hey, cook all of it on Sunday. That's a good strategy. Cooking 2 to 3 times per week, another good strategy as well. Okay, so it sounds like y'all already familiar with meal prepping a little bit. Hopefully, I can give you some more ideas on how you can make it a little bit more easy. So the first style is going to be batch cooking. Batch cooking is when you are cooking something in large quantities and then you can kind of portion it out throughout the week. You can also freeze with batch cooking. So a lot of those foods that you can do with batch cooking freeze really well. Some of those dishes can be like soups, stews, chilies, curries, baked dishes, and casseroles. Those are all great options. For me, I know that like making curry, like a tikka masala or something, can be kind of tedious. And so if I'm making curry on a weekend or something, I'll make just a huge pot of it, and then I will have the base of it. That's just kind of like the tomatoes with the, the cream and the spices and the onions and everything. That's already cooked, and then I will, portion that out. I'll freeze most of it, and then I'll have, curry for a couple of nights throughout the week. Chili, another great example. You can just kind of like throw things in a pot, cook a huge portion, and then dish it out throughout the week. The next type is going to be to cook once, eat twice. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention as well, with batch cooking, so you can have a huge portion of, a base, like for example, a stew, and maybe you have some of it portioned out for the week, you have some of it frozen, and then you can maybe like add more elements to it. So you steam some vegetables the night before, you get some of your stew out. Maybe you cook a bit of rice, you cook some potatoes, and then that way you kind of like have one foundational element already done ahead of time, and then you can kind of add more to kind of like create a more complete meal, if that makes more sense. Okay. So cook once, eat twice is another great method. So if you are already cooking, you are already making a serving of food, why just make one? Make two. That way, it can be a little bit less repetitive than batch cooking. So instead of having to kind of like cook one giant pot of the same dish, you're just cooking the same foods, but you're just making an extra portion. And that extra portion can either be like that same recipe, so the same dish, you're just doubling it, or maybe you're just doubling one component of it. So for example, if you are making sheet pan roasted chicken with sweet potatoes and broccoli for dinner one night, you can basically either double that and then that can be your lunch for the next day. Or if you're somebody who's like, that's a little bit monotonous, I don't want to do that. You can then just, maybe double up the chicken and then transform that into another dish. So you're shredding that cold chicken, you're mixing it with some greens, adding some light dressing, and now you've got lunch for the next day that is a completely different dish. So you're cooking once, and then you're eating twice. Next up, we have individual portioning. This is the kind of like grab and go style. This is kind of like what I call like the Instagram version of meal prepping, where you see somebody like make, 50 burritos or something, or cook, having like a huge stack of to-go containers with foods already ready to go. That style works well if you are the type of person that doesn't really mind eating the same thing over and over. But I understand that it can get kind of repetitive as well. The benefit of it is that you don't have to really think about it all that much. You've got your servings, you already have it planned out. Maybe you have like multiple different dishes. You've got them in your to-go containers. Maybe some of them are already frozen if you're cooking on Sunday and you need it for Friday. Um, yeah, and it's great for somebody who has a busy schedule. If you're limited on lunchtime, you don't necessarily have a lot of time to go out. You already have like a full meal ready to go. Um, Now with this one, I know that we want to maybe like strive for that like Instagram, picture perfect meal prepping, but it doesn't have to be that extreme. You can always just start slow, maybe just experiment with having two or three lunches already cooked ahead of time on a weekend night, instead of just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna start meal prepping and I'm gonna have all 21 meals, ready to go. That's a little bit, an unrealistic expectation to set for yourself. Just sort of like start slow, experiment, see if you enjoy it, and then pick up from there. Some great options can be like overnight oats. That's a great breakfast option. You're just mixing up the oats with yogurt and things like that the night before. You wake up in the morning, you already have breakfast ready to go. So just literally grab and go. Or grilled chicken with rice and mixed roasted vegetables. That's kind of like what I call like the bodybuilder meal. Um, Breakfast burritos are also a great example. You can maybe cook, two or three of them on a weekend, and then freeze them, and then that way you have breakfast ready to go. All you have to do is just microwave them, it'll thaw them out, and you've got food ready to go, breakfast ready to go. Grilled fish with grains and steamed vegetables, that's another great option. It can be something you cook on Sunday, and then on Monday or Tuesday that can be your lunch. um, so with that, it's sort of just kind of like taking some of the um, sorry, it helps with limited time, especially around breakfast time. It can be really busy. You're just trying to get out of the door, and you just need to grab something really quick. So, like again, the overnight oats or the burritos can be great options. Next up is buffet style. So with buffet style, the idea here is that you're creating the building blocks for different meals, and then you're storing them in the fridge. So you're essentially turning your fridge into a buffet. So for this, you want to cook large quantities of several batches of individual components, like for example, a bunch of steamed broccoli. Um, a bunch of like roasted green beans or asparagus. You're cooking a bunch of grilled chicken, some ground turkey, beans, roasted chickpeas, things like that. You have your grains already cooked, like rice, quinoa, farro, bulgur, all those things. And that way you're just kind of like storing them in containers separately. You're not necessarily mixing recipes yet. But then you can build yourself like bowls or something like that. It's sort of like turning your fridge into like a Chipotle or something where you're like, okay, well, what am I feeling? I'll have some grilled chicken, I'll have some quinoa, I'll put in some steamed vegetables. You have your sauce already ready to go. Maybe you drizzle that on there or you set it aside and you've got a meal already built really easily, and you can take that with you to work. So that's sort of the buffet style. And again, you can experiment with that, having like different components. And freezing with this is also another great option. So, maybe you grilled a bunch of chicken, you've cooked a bunch of ground turkey, you freeze half of each of those, and then you can kind of like dish them out throughout the week so that, you're having ground turkey on Monday, grilled chicken on Tuesday, and then turkey again on Wednesday. Okay. The last style is the modular prep slash freezer prep. This is my go-to style because I am the type of person that does get really bored really easily. My ADHD also just kind of like makes me feel like, oh my God, I can't eat, the same thing over and over and over again. So this is something that does require a little bit more time. It's not exactly like the buffet style where you already have every single component cooked and ready to go. This is where you're just trying to get as much prep done as you possibly can. And so for this one, there's really like not one specific standard you're aiming for. You're just seeing like how much can I already do ahead of time, and then use that as a starting point. So maybe you're cooking your proteins ahead of time, like you're grilling the chicken ahead of time, or at the very least, you're cutting it up and portioning it out and separating into like easy to cook portions instead of just having like a package of chicken breasts sitting in the fridge. If you have your vegetables, maybe not just sitting in the bag that you bought them in, but you took them out, you take them out, you wash them, you clean them, cut them up, and then store them in sealed containers. So that way, when it is time to cook, you can just take the container, grab a handful of like onions, peppers, carrots, something like that, and then toss it in the pan instead of having to be like, well, it's now time to cook. Let me grab a carrot, wash it, peel it, cut it, and then it makes sort of like a weeknight cooking take, 45 minutes. This one you can just kind of like cut down on time and then you can have meals ready in way less time, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Um, so yeah, if you don't necessarily enjoy reheated food, you want something fresh, something new, you're cooking every night, this is a great style to do. And again, it helps you cut down on time. So I want to show you guys some examples. These are pictures that I took. These are foods that I like to enjoy. So here I've got, you can see my carrots. They're already peeled, washed, cut up, and sitting in Tupperwares. I have my onions already also cut up and sitting in Tupperware. I use those pre-sliced mushrooms to help me save on time. And then you can see in that little baggie that is ground turkey. So I like to cook my proteins ahead of time and then just freeze them. The nutrition is exactly the same. There, you don't lose any of the nutritional value of it if you freeze it or cook it ahead of time. And so really this meal just takes about as much time as it does to cook the rice. So I have my rice cooking first. I'll grab a handful of each of those vegetables, saute them in a pan. I'll add the turkey to let it thaw, and then I'll cover it with water, add these like little curry cubes, um, and then I have a curry on a weeknight. This is another quick one, quick and easy one. So you can see I already have my peppers cut up ahead of time. And in my experience, these vegetables tend to last sitting in like sealed containers for up to 1 to 1.5 weeks, depending on the vegetable. So I've got my meat already cooked, I've got my vegetables already prepped, I have my sauce already prepared, sitting in a bottle. So all I have to do is just boil some noodles, saute these vegetables really quick, add in the meat, let it thaw, let it kind of like crisp up a little bit, and then just toss everything in a bowl with the sauce and the noodles. And so that is a really quick and easy meal that comes together in like 15 minutes. So you can see this isn't necessarily like I'm not giving you a recipe, I'm just giving you kind of like this is the method, you know. This is a way that I can cut down on cooking time instead of having to like prep and cut the vegetables and cook the meat from scratch every night. Okay, so those are going to be the different styles and methods. I would like to hear from you. Yes, Leticia.
I do have a question. I have read that cutting up onions and then storing them in the refrigerator releases toxins. I how true? Yeah, that's what I've heard. That I've always read not to cut your onion, to leave it whole and store it in a tight container in the fridge because if you cut it up, it releases toxins.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before. As far as I'm aware, I don't think that that's true. Um, yeah, I honestly I've never heard that before, and I don't see why it would do that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I can jump in a little bit. Hi everyone. I haven't introduced myself. I am Vanessa Mesa. I'm the supervisor of nutrition in the Wildcats department. I'm sorry, the nutrition department in Wildcats. And I'm a registered dietitian. So I just wanted to kind of help a little bit maybe with that question. That is a good question. I've heard that myth. So it's a myth. I've heard that before. And no, it's not true. The components and the phytochemicals that the onion has actually does the opposite. It kind of repels any toxin or potential bacteria that might be around. So cutting the onions and making sure that it's just well stored, like in an airtight container, it's more than enough to keep the onion fresh and toxic free. Is that what I want to say? For 2 or 3 days the most.
Okay, thank you, Miss Meza. Yeah, as far as I know, there's really no issue with cutting any of the vegetables. And again, as long as it's like one of those hearty vegetables, it'll last for quite a while. Okay. And do any of these methods kind of appeal to you most? 3 p.m. energy crash. Well, to avoid the energy crash, yeah, you want to make sure to go with whole grains just so that the fiber can help slow down how the energy is released. And also making sure, like going back to that hunger scale, when you are eating, you're not necessarily having a really large meal for lunch because you haven't had any food since breakfast, or if you've even skipped breakfast altogether. So just kind of portioning out your food more throughout the day, including fiber in your meals, and then just enjoying sort of smaller meals throughout the day will help give you less of an energy crash. Okay, so next up, I just wanted to give some more advice on starting meal prepping. So it can feel really daunting if you've never done it before. So I always recommend like start slow, start small. You don't need to, strive for having, 10, 12, 15 meals ready ahead of time. Just start with, can I get one or two meals prepared for the week? And also just remember that this doesn't have to be daunting. So you don't have to necessarily like meal prep really complex dishes. You can just sort of start by meal prepping simple dishes. Can I get the main elements together? Do I have my grains? Do I have some protein? Do I have some vegetables mixed together? If you can just kind of like keep it to a simple meal in the beginning and then just sort of experiment with it. And as you gain expertise, it'll start to become more it'll become easier and easier to meal prep. And then also, what I also recommend is to focus on the thing that you're struggling with the most. So, which meal do you struggle with getting in? Is it breakfast? Is it lunch? Is it dinner? When are you most busy? Those are the meals that you want to prep for the most. So, if it's breakfast, maybe focusing on meal prepping your breakfast for the week, on a weekend night or something like that. If you're having like really limited short breaks on lunch, then let's focus on meal prepping for that. Okay, and then the last thing I'll say is to kind of get people involved with meal prepping. So if you are the type of person that you're like, oh, I just don't really enjoy cooking, which I hear that a lot. I always say, make it a social gathering instead. Like use a backyard barbecue as an opportunity to meal prep. I meal prepped like 20 pounds worth of chicken thighs on 4th of July. When I was already out there grilling, I was like, might as well just grill a whole bunch of chicken. And then I, portioned it out and froze it. And I still have a few baggies of that left. You can have instant pot parties if you got one of those. Just invite your friends. You all are cooking together. Just kind of like get family and friends involved. That way, you can kind of like make it less monotonous, less boring to meal prep. And yeah, you can get things done more easily. Okay, so this is going to be our Q&A section. We've got 13, 14 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, I am happy to answer those. And Miss Mesa is also available, who can help questions if there's anything that I might not be able to answer. Thank you very much. I hope this is helpful and you guys can take some good advice away from that. Of course, thank you very much. The next pan cooking class is going to be on November 4th. I mean, sorry, September 4th. November, September 4th. So next Friday.
Can you share a little bit how they can register or where they can find information about the class?
Yes, so if you go to the Texas State Wildcats website, you'll see an events calendar on there. You'll find the cooking class in the as one of the events listed there. We also, if you are on the team's channel, we advertise that every Monday, the week that we have a cooking class. So on Monday, I will be making a post, including the recipes and a link as well, so that if you would like a link, you can find it there. And thank you, Jess. That is the link right there so that you can register for any of the nutrition services that Wildcats has to offer. In the cooking classes, we like to focus on really easy, simple dishes. So our cooking classes are always on Fridays from 12 to 1. And so we like to focus, because we have such limited time, we like to focus on really easy, quick recipes. And most of those recipes are also great meal prepping recipes as well. So if you'd like to get some ideas, join us for those cooking classes. You can also find all of the past recipes on the Teams channel as well in the shared folder. So you get more ideas for recipes to help you with cooking as well. And if you need more like one-on-one time, we also have our one-on-one nutrition consultations that you can have with me. And I can help you with answering questions. Maybe we can like create a meal plan together, things like that. And I can give you more in-depth advice on how to like help with meal prepping as well. Do I have recipes for the modular prep? Not necessarily. I'm personally the type of person that doesn't really cook with recipes all that much. I usually just kind of like, throw stuff together in a pan. I kind of like turn most cooking into kind of like a stir fry. But any of the recipes that you typically want to like enjoy and cook, you can use modular prep for those. So if you see that a recipe for a stew calls for like prepping, a few different vegetables, maybe you can have those vegetables already like cut up and prepped ahead of time, so that when it's time to cook that meal, you can have most of the elements already there. Okay. Okay. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed the cooking classes that we've had in the past. We have those all year round as well. So we've had them throughout the summer, and we're continuing now with the fall semester as well. Way to preserve bananas longer. Um, so one thing you can do is to not have them covered. Bananas release a gas that makes vegetables ripen faster. And so if you have them stored in the bag, I would suggest to take them out of the bag and hang them on a hook if you have. That'll slow down the ripening. Um, so that's one way you can slow that down. Um, but you can also use that as a way to like ripen vegetables or fruits that aren't like quite ripe yet. So if you have a bunch of avocados that aren't really ready to eat, you can like put them in a bag and put a banana with them, and that banana is gonna help speed up the ripening of those other fruits or vegetables. If you have like blueberries or strawberries, any of those types of fruits that don't really like ripen as they age. Um, that's one great method to kind of like help ripen them faster.
You can also wrap the stems with plastic wrap or aluminum foil if you want them to last longer, because that's how you can trap the gas that they release. So that's I've done it a lot, and it does help a lot with it. With, of course, I agree, taking them out of the bag or any container that is kind of keeping them tight.
Mhm. That's a really helpful I've never heard about the wrapping the stems. I'll try that next time.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, and it's honestly it is helpful. I've done it. It works well.
What is a good way to wash your veggies and fruits? So with fruits and vegetables, primarily what you want to do is wash them under cool running water, and then just scrubbing the vegetables either by hand, or if you have like a soft sponge that's dedicated to just like scrubbing vegetables, that's also a good way of doing it. If you've got peels on vegetables, of course, like peeling those will help kind of like get rid of some of the bacteria or the dirt that might be on the outside. But just like as long as you wash them under cool running water, um, that'll be a good method for washing them. Boxing the bananas. I have seen the baking soda and vinegar thing in before. I don't necessarily know if that's contributing much beyond just like scrubbing with cool running water, to be honest. Most of the like the USDA, the FDA, their recommendations is to just like wash them under cool running water. A scrub daddy, maybe if it's like a hardy vegetable that can take a bit of scrubbing, you can use that. Or if it's maybe something that's like softer, maybe just using like a soft uh, sponge on it. A veggie wash at HEB, what is that? Is it like a cleaning product?
It's kind of like well, it's just a veggie wash and it has all these simple ingredients in it. It only has like maybe two, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
but it does get a little soapy, not a lot, but it kind of takes off all the like the cucumbers, it takes off the wax and stuff. I just put a very little in like six cucumbers, and then I scrub them and rinse them really well. And I mean, it works really well, but it's a clear wash, kind of
Okay,
natural, I guess. I don't know, but it works.
that's great.
Mhm,
Thank you for sharing that.
mhm.
Um, hey, any of y'all have any other questions that I could help answer about meal prepping, about um, washing produce, helping extending shelf life, things like that? I know that the chat was going pretty fast, so if you asked a question and I missed it, um, you can ask again so I can help answer it.
I just want to share one more time that this session is being recorded, so we'll upload it to our YouTube channel and then I'll share the final recording on Teams. So if y'all have any additional questions that come up later, you can reach out to AB on the Teams channel.
Mhm. Yeah, I can continue to answer any additional questions in the chat on the Teams channel. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us today. If you would like to, again, advertising a bit more, if you'd like to learn more, some simple, healthy recipes, you can join us for the pan cooking classes, which again are on Fridays from 12 to 1. The next cooking class is going to be on September 4th. I will be posting on the Teams channel on Monday about that. You'll find the link there. Jess also just posted the link in the chat as well. So you can register for those cooking classes. And then, of course, if you would like to receive some tailored nutrition education that is specific to your needs, you can register for the one-on-one nutrition consultations, again, on the Wildcats website under the nutrition services. Um, um, you can then kind of schedule a meeting with me, and then we can discuss things more. Okay. Of course. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you. I hope to see some of y'all um, at the next pan cooking class. Thank you. I'm glad you found the information helpful today. Thoughts on CMOS? The most helpful part of CMOS is the fiber content that it has. And so CMOS is really mostly a fancier way to get in your fiber intake. I would say just, if you're eating a diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, you can get in plenty of fiber that way as well. Um, so, it can be very easy to kind of like get carried away with like social media and products that they hype, but CMOS, yeah, is just a fancy way to get in fiber. Okay. Uh, I will stop sharing. It is 11, so that is all that we have for today. Hopefully, some of y'all have your lunch already meal prep for today. And thank you for joining us today. I hope to see you in the upcoming cooking class and have a wonderful weekend.